What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So we did get a fresh map in for the truck, supposed to fix a few issues and get us up to full power, but we're having some issues loading it onto the ECU. It did read fine when I did the initial read of the ECU to send to Malone. It worked just fine, not a single hiccup. Now that I'm trying to write to the ECU with this new map, it is not working. I've tried it a few times. I've talked to Malone. I've tried battery charger on the battery, make sure we're at full voltage. Nothing seems to work. So I'm not sure what's going on. I think Malone was talking to the manufacturer, see if they have any ideas on a fix for this. But I guess I'll get back to you once we can actually get this map loaded up and we'll go for a rip. All right, guys, while we're waiting to figure out what is going on with that FlashZilla, why we're not able to write to the ECU, there's a couple things I want to do. So one of them being something to do with my AC compressor. So I had a few comments, and if you guys have ever been on, if you've ever Googled TDI swap and been on the TDI forum, you've seen Jimbo. He's been an amazing help. He's helped me a few times on stuff that I probably wouldn't have ever figured out, this being one of them. So the way this compressor works from the Volkswagen is there's an internal pressure regulator valve, and the way the Toyota system works, it enables and disables the clutch on the actual compressor to regulate the pressure. And like I said, the Volkswagen, it's always spinning, but it uses an internal valve to regulate the pressure. So if you have both systems working, they're gonna work against each other, and it's not really gonna work very well. So what we gotta do is rip that air compressor back out, take the back head off of it, and then there's a valve that we need to take out. And I guess Jim said you just put a bolt in its place. So we're gonna rip it out and figure that out. All right, we got the compressor off, and I was assuming this would be kind of like the ALH compressor, which has a bunch of bolts along the back, and you can pull that whole back head off, and then there's the valve assembly and like the reed assembly and everything under that. But this one is a little bit different. So it looks like this is the control valve right there. It's just a little clip holding that in. So I'm not really exactly sure how I'm going to disable this. I'm going to pull it out, kind of mess with it, kind of see how it works, see if I can figure out how to bypass or just leave this thing fully open or whatever. I'm not even sure what the inside of the valve looks like. So let's pull this valve out, see if we can figure out how to bypass it. Alright guys, I was messing around with this valve, and you can see in the back here, if I can get that, there's a little adjustment screw. That's actually like a plunger into the valve. Jim actually noticed that. He told me just to max that out all the way in and try that. So I think I'm just going to try that for now, throw that back in the compressor and see what that does. Also, as far as the tune goes, I had to update the FlashZilla, so I'm going to try the tune again and try loading it and see what it does. Alright, the moment of truth, we got it plugged in. Let's see if it will load this new map. Oh, it might be working. It never went to erasing flash memory at all last time. Oh, look at that. I think it's working. Yep, I think it's working, guys. It never went this far at all. So I'm gonna let this load and I'll get back with you once it's loaded. There we go. Key off and confirm. Bam, bam. Not sure what it's doing now. It's never, oh, there we go. Writing complete, switch ignition off, and disconnect. Perfect. Alright guys, I've been messing with this valve. I've tried blowing air through the bottom here. There's this port, there's these holes in the center here, and then there's a port right there. And there's also 3 ports in here, one up top, one kind of, you know, that would line up with this middle port, and then the bottom is wide open as well. But I'm trying to figure out how to disable or bypass this. So Jim was saying I need to block it off. I'm not sure how I would do that. Also, this little filter goes on the end here, just like that. So I'm asking you guys for more help. If any of you are really familiar with AC systems, I kind of have a general idea on how this valve works. But as far as adapting this pump into that system with the separate high-low switch, I'm not really sure what to do. So Jim didn't really know either. This is a lot different pump than the ALH, which he has. So on the ALH pump, you can take the whole head off the back. There's the valves and the reeds, and the valve's right in the center of it. So you just pull a valve out and put a bolt in its place. And he said it worked out great. So I'm not really sure what to do here. I might just put this thing back together as is and try it and see if I'll charge the system and see if it works. He said it'll just kind of go from cold to warm, cold to warm, because the two systems are kind of fighting each other. So obviously don't want that to happen, but I don't know what to do with this valve. So if you guys have any suggestions, if you guys know exactly how these valves function, and if I could just say plug, I believe that this is the inlet, obviously, with a filter into the valve. If I could just plug that and it would bypass that system, and then obviously would regulate the pressure by turning on and off the actual clutch like the Toyota does. So let me know if you guys have any opinions or suggestions on that. Drop a comment down below. All right, guys, got the compressor all back in, mounted up, and good to go. One thing that is kind of a good thing is you can see the valve right up here. If I do need to pull it back out and modify that valve, I shouldn't have to pull the compressor out, because I should be able to just pull that clip out, pull the valve out, and be good to go. All right, we are back on the ground. I know I should go out and drive it, try out my new tune, but there's something I want to do first, and it's really been bugging me. And it's bugging me extra because I already fixed it. Where this wiring harness for the injectors, it has an O-ring on it, and it was a little bit loose when I put this motor together, and you cannot buy that O-ring. So I put some sealant on it, and it is still leaking, and it's dripping all the way down and dripping onto the floor. So it's really bugging me. I want to get it fixed. And the really crappy part is I can't actually pull that out because it runs, it's a solid, kind of a solid plastic loom that runs all the way up to the front. And obviously I'm not going to cut a hole in my firewall, and I'm not going to pull the motor out to fix that. So my plan is I'm going to take this, I'm going to unbolt it, I'm going to pull it out as far as I can and get access to that O-ring. I'm just going to clean everything really good with some carb cleaner, make sure there's no oil on anything. And then I'm just going to goop it back up with some RTV. What I did on the first time was I just put some on the actual O-ring. This time I'm going to actually put some on the flange where it bolts into the head. And hopefully that will fix my leak, because I'm not going to pull my motor out just so I can pull that off. That is one crappy thing about this motor sitting this way, is I can't pull this wiring harness out without pulling the motor. So we're going to try one more time to seal that up with RTV. We are going to have to pull the valve cover to be able to unclip that harness and pull it out. So let's pull the valve cover, unbolt that, pull it out, clean it as best we can, and goop it up with some RTV. Alright guys, we got this thing out, so you can see that long rod with all the wiring on it for the injectors. That's why we can't pull this thing out, because it's a solid piece and it's like a foot long. So I got the connector pulled out here. You can see my sealant on it, and it looks like the top was sealed, but there was oil all over the bottom of that connector. So I'm gonna get this all cleaned up real good and get some new sealant on there, get this thing bolted back together. All right, we got that bolted back on. You can see we got RTV squirting out around the whole outside. So if that leaks, I don't know how else to fix it. So we got to get the sealant off of these cam caps here for the valve cover gasket, front and back, and then we can get the valve cover set back on. All right guys, we're all back together. I'm gonna give this, I don't know, a few hours just to make sure that sealant is nice and dry before we get it warmed up. And we can finally go drive this thing with the new tune. Hopefully we got full boost, hopefully we got full power, and hopefully that brake switch that we wired in isn't gonna be throwing any codes at us. All right, we got her outside and getting her warmed up. Let's bring it out, see what it does. So far, I don't have a check engine light, so that has been resolved. You can see that is out, so we'll get it warmed up, bring it out, and hopefully we got some power. Well guys, it's definitely running better. I'm still only building about 20 pounds of boost. And it still comes on a little bit slow, but it definitely runs a lot better. It almost sounds like I got a boost leak. If you let me downshift, you can hear it you can hear a little bit of something coming from up here. A little whine coming from up there. So I gotta go through and make sure I got no boost leaks. But we are definitely running a lot better, and no check engine light, so that is good. All right, we made it home, and I'm not seeing anywhere where I could have a boost leak. I guess I'll just kind of tear into it and look into it a little farther. But one thing I wanted to let you guys know, this turbo is piping hot right now. I can feel it radiating off my fingers. Actually bumped my finger into it and about burnt it. But this AC line is like bone cold. It literally feels like outside temperature right now. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it, and probably I want to do some nice hot pulls, get this turbo really hot, stop as fast as I can, and feel this AC line. But I think we're gonna be good. It's bone cold right now, and the turbo is piping hot. Well, I'm gonna cut this video here, guys. I am trying to get that Suzuki mini truck all done up for winter, like I said, and winter's coming very quick. So I'm trying to get in there and get the plow mounted on, get all that stuff done, get that thing 100% ready for when it snows, I can use it. So I'm gonna be putting this truck to the side for, I don't know, a couple weeks at least, just to get everything figured out with that. And then we'll jump back in this thing. If I do have some free time, I'll get in here, try to figure out this, if it is a boost leak. It sounds kind of weird. I don't know. People say these turbos make a weird sound, and that could be it. But it could also be a boost leak, and that would explain why it's not building full boost. So I gotta talk to Malone anyway, see what they say about it, and we will figure it out. But it is running a lot better. It actually builds some boost, builds it a little bit faster. It's still, like I said, it's still a little bit slow, but it's building boost a lot better, and it's a lot faster than it was the first time we drove it. So getting very excited to get this thing running 100%. We will get there, but we got some work to do on the Suzuki, so check back on the channel for that build. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Go smash the thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.